We begin today the Gemara on Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis, 3 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud, where it says Skile Sreife Chulu. So this brings over here from the Mishnah. The Tanakama says that the order of the Daled Mises, starting from the most severe, is Skile, stoning, and then Sreife, burning, and then Hereg, which is with a sword, and Cheneg, strangulations. That's the order. So the Gemara here is going to go through different Avedas that you see that the punishment are these Mises, and prove from these different Avedas why it is that we see how we see in the Rabbanan hold that this is the order of the severity of these mises. Sagt the Gemara, Skile Sreife Cholo. So Skile Chamura Misreife. Skile is more Chamer than Sreife. Why is this? Shekei Nitna LeMegadif Ulo'evid Avedis Gelulim. Because we see that for the most severe Aveda, a Megadif, someone that the opposite of blessed is Hashem's name, and Avedis Gelulim, someone that serves Avedis Zara. So what's the punishment of Misa? Skila. Says the Gemara, my chumra. So why is this the most severe Avedis? Shekem Pashit Yada Beker, because this is a person that's denying the primary existence, the Eivishter. That's why, if this is a skila, it must be that skila is the most severe punishment. But the Gemara asks on this, Adarabbe, but on the contrary, I can bring you another Aveda that's very severe, and over there it's not skila. Sreife Chamura, the punishment, the death of Sreife is more severe. Shekei Nitna Lebas Koyin Shezinsa, because the Bas Koyin that has a relationship after she's an Eishes Ish. And what's her punishment? Usually, an Eishes Ish that has a relation with someone else, she also gets Misa, but the Misa is Chenek. Mois Yumas, usually in the title when it just says the term Mois Yumas, it refers to Chenek. But over here, by the Bas Koyin, the pasuk says that that her misa is sreifa, and this is a very severe aveda. Umay chumra. What's the chumra? Why is this such a severe aveda? She came mechalelas asavia, because the act that she does desecrates the kedusha of her father, which is a kohen. As Rashi here brings, the Gemara says later, it says in the pasuk asavia hi mechalelas, that if her father, a kohen, her daughter does something like this, then it takes away the kedusha of the father. And we don't, the halacha of treating him as a kayin, the kidashti, does not apply to him, and we say, utter cursed as a person that his child did something like this. So such a severe aveda that brings about such an effect is and she gets sreife, so that proves that sreife should be more severe even than skila.
This Bas Koyin is a Ishes Ish?
Yeah, so we'll see here in the continuation of the Gemara. The case of this Bas Koyin, this Mizana, there's two scenarios. There's the Bas Koyin that's Mizana when she's a Eishes Ish, meaning she's fully married, yes. Then by a Bas Yisrael, when she's Mizana, an Eishes Ish, it's Chenek. And the Bas Koyin, she gets instead Sreife. But then there's another scenario, which is the Naira Ha'ma'irasa, which means a Bas Koyin or a Bas Yisrael that was Mizana only after the first stage of marriage. And in such a case, the halacha of a Bas Yisrael is that she gets skila. She gets skila. The Bas Yisrael gets skila, not chenek, like when she's a full Eishes Ish. It's worse. The Aveda, in a case when she's not fully married, is actually worse. We'll see soon in the Gemara why. Rashi will explain why. Now over here, by the Bas Koyin, when she's not fully married, what punishment does she get then? Does she get skila or does she get sreife? So now the Gemara, that's the point that the Gemara continues on and explains over here. Says the Gemara, no, then there's no punishment at all. No misa at all. Says the Gemara, Kesavri Rabbanan, now the Rabbanan, they hold about this case that we just brought up here. This Bas Koyin, Nisua Yaitzel Sreifa. If she's a Bas Koyin that's a full Eishes Ish, then instead of getting Chenek, like a regular Bas Yisrael in such a case, by her we're more stringent and she gets Sreifa, Eishti Sarif. But V'loy Arusa. But not if she's an Arusa. If she's an Arusa, the halacha by a Bas Yisrael is that she gets Skila. And according to the Rabbanon, that Skila is more severe than Sreifa, you can't say that when the Torah said that a Bas Koyin should be more severe than the Bas Yisrael and get Sreifa, that it refers also to when she's a Naira Ma'irasa, then instead of getting Skila, she should get Sreifa. Because that would be going a step down. If by a Bas Yisrael, the Torah is machmer, that you get skila, which is the highest level of the Misa, so then for sure, the Bas Koyin, which we're more severe with, we're more stringent with than the Bas Yisrael, also gets skila. So the point that the Gemara is saying here, and this is actually, as we'll see, going to be one of the points that's the basis of the machlokes between Rabbanon and Rab Shimon is regarding the chiddush of the Bas Koyin. This that we find by the Bas Koyin, that the Torah says that we're more stringent with her, that she gets sreifa, when does that chumrah apply? Says the Gemara now, according to the Rabbanon, that chumrah only applies by an Eishes Ish. Instead of getting chenek, she gets skila. But b'negeya to a naira ma'irasa, meaning when she's not fully married, and the bas Yisrael there gets skila, according to the Rabbanon, the bas kohen will also get skila, not sreifa, because sreifa would be a level down. And in our girsa in the Gemara here, it goes on to say, Umida afka rachmana la arusa b'skila, since we see that the Torah says that the arusa by a bas kohen gets skila and not sreifa, like she would if she was in a suah. So shma, from this I see that skila chamura, that skila is the most severe. That's the girsa in our Gemara, but Rashi says that you have to take this out, because from the words of the Gemara, it's mashma that this is the source of the Rabbanon to say that skila is more severe than sreifa. But Rashi says there is really no source in the pasuk for this. In the pasuk it just says that a bas kohen is different. That as aviyei mechalelas be'eshti sarev. In the pasuk it doesn't specify when that applies. Does it apply to a bas kohen which is a full eishes ish? Does it apply also to a bas kohen which is not yet a full eishes ish by a naira meiras? It doesn't specify it in the pasuk. So the language of the Gemara, which is mashma, that this is the source of why the Chachamim said so, Rashi says it's not true. Really, Rashi says the kavan of the Gemara is to say that the Chachamim hold that the point that was mentioned before, that Megadef, Oived Avodah Zarah, is the most severe Aveda. Why? Because Poshet Yodeh Be'ikr, that's the reason why, if there the Torah gives skila, and that's the most severe Aveda, that's the source to say that skila is the most severe. So even though the Gemara brought up this Aveda of Bas Kayim, which is also a very severe Aveda, as the Gemara says, Mechaleles Asaviyah, but still the Chachamim hold that Avodah Zarah is worse than Mechaleles Asaviyah. Umemela, as a result over here, because of that svara, the Chachamim say that when we find that the Torah says that a Bas Kohen gets sreifa, it must be that that's only as opposed to chenek. That's a step up, that you get sreifa and not chenek. But b'negei ta'naira meirasa, where every Bas Yisrael gets skila, you can't say that a Bas Kohen gets sreifa, because that would be a step down. According to the Chachamim, because you find by Avodah Zarah that skila is the most severe, so it must be that in that case, even a Bas Kohen will also get skila. That's how Rashi learns this Gemara. Okay, now the Gemara is going to go on to prove also that skila is more severe from the other mises as well. Skila chamura misayev, this that I say, that skila is more severe of a punishment, of death. Then sayev, what's the source for this? Shekenitna lemegadev v'lo'over the way this gechavim. As we just said, by a Megadef and by Avodah Zarah, the Misa is Skila. That's the most severe. My Chumre, what's the Chumra of these two Averis? Kedamaran, as we said, because he's a Koifa Beker. But on this you can ask, Adarabe, I'll say on the contrary, Sayif Chomor, maybe the Misa of Sayif is more severe. Shekem Nitna la'anche Irani Dachas. When you have a whole city that served Avodah Zarah, then the people of the Irani Dachas, the way they are, their Chi of Misa is with Sayif. And they are serving Avodah Zarah. So now, what's the chumrah that you're saying that's in the Irani Dachas, that I see even more actually than Avodah Zarah itself? I see here that the Torah says that they have to all be put to death, and you have to actually take all their possessions as well and put it in the center of the city and burn it all. So that's more than you find even by Avodah Zarah, and their punishment is only Sayif. So that would mean though that Sayif maybe is more severe than Skila. Says the Gemara, no, but you can't say that, because Amrid, you would say, Eza koyach merube. What's more severe? Koyach hamadiach, the severity of the one that's persuading others to serve Avodah Zarah, or koyach hanidach, or the severity of the one that got convinced and served Avodah Zarah. Havayem koyach hamadiach, the one that's persuading and convincing others to serve Avodah Zarah, he's doing an Avodah that's much more severe. He's not only maidan Avodah Zarah himself, but he's also convincing others. Now, Vatanya, and on this we learned in a Braisa regarding the Irani Dachas, that Madiche Irani Dachas, Beskila, even though the people of the Irani Dachas itself, they get Sayif, but the one that persuaded all of them to serve Avodah Zarah, he gets Skila. And he's definitely doing an Aveda that's much more severe. And therefore we see that Skila is worse than Sayif. The Gemara goes on to say, Skila chamura michenek. From where do I see that Skila is more severe than chenek? Shekeinitn lemegadef aloiv davedes gechavim. Because Skila is by the most severe aveda. Umay chumre kedamaran. And what's the severity? As we explained, because he's a koifer beker. But on this as well, you can ask, Adarabe, I'll bring you a raya, the opposite. Maybe chenek chomer. Maybe the punishment of chenek should be more severe. Shekeinitn. Where do we find the punishment of death of chenek? It's for lemaka avavi imay, a person that hits his father or his mother, and this is a very severe aveda, and therefore it may be even more severe than avodah zarah. Umay chumra. What's the chumra of this aveda? Shekein hukish kvaydan lekavod amakim, because the kavod of a parent is compared to the kavod of the Eibishter, and there the misa is chenek. So therefore I could say that chenek is more severe than skila. I think Taisus actually here says, regarding this question, Taisus brings it up later, but I think it's also regarding this question that Taisus says that the Gemara's kavanah here is not actually to ask that it should be more severe than Avodah Zarah, because the severity of a person, chas v'shalom, hitting a father or mother is the fact that it's compared to kavod hamakim, so it shouldn't be more severe than Avodah Zarah itself, which is kavod hamakim. The Gemara is asking that it should be equal, that it should be at least be equal, so maybe chenek and skila should be on the same level. But the Gemara says, but you can't say that. From this that we find, going back to the case mentioned before, that by a Bas Yisrael that's fully married, the full Eishes Ish. So here we see that the Torah is more severe with a Bas Kayin because she's being Mechal, her father, more than the Bas Yisrael. And what did the Torah say? By a Bas Yisrael, she gets chenek. And by the Bas Kayin, when the Torah wants to be more stringent, it takes it out from the Arusa Bas Yisrael, and it's from chenek to skila. So Shema Minah, skila chamura. That proves to you that here, in this case, where it should have been chenek, and the Torah wants to be more stringent, and it elevates it to the level of skila, that shows that skila is more severe of a death than chenek. Okay, so this is all the negeya to the different levels of skila in relation to the other mises that the Mishnah speaks. So we have a source that skila is more chomer than all of them. Emma says the Gemara didn't have to go through all of the cases here that it said. Taisus over here says it could have said that once you see that skila is more chomer than sreifa, then it's a kal v'chaimer, that it's more chomer than the others. Rashi also brings up when you get to sayif. Why did the Gemara have to say that it's more chomer than sayif? So Rashi says that the fact that Sreifa is more chomer than Saif is lav dafka. That itself, as we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara, is learned out from Skila itself. So the Gemara has to make this cheshbon over here. But what Taisa says, the Gemara is going through all the details to prove to you directly where you see that Skila is more chomer than the other Dalad Mises, even if it didn't have to. Okay, now the Gemara goes to the next one of the Mises, Sreifa. So on the order, so the Tanakam, the Rabbanan say that Sreifa is more chomer than the others. So Sreifa chamura misayev. So here, in the continuation of the Gemara, a lot of the svaras that the Gemara just said will be repeated again in different ways. It says the Gemara, Sreifa chamura misayev. Sreifa is more stringent than Sayev. How do I know this? Shekeinitno lebas kayin shezinsa. We see the Torah is machmer by the bas kayin that she gets Sreifa. Says the Gemara, my chumra, and what's the chumra of this? Shekei mechalel es asavia, because she's mechalel her father. Adarab, but if so, I can say on the contrary, Sayev chomer, that maybe Sayev is more severe. Shekei nitten la'anshei Iranidachas, as we mentioned before, the city of the Iranidachas, all the people there that are serving Avodah Zarah, and they get Sayev, so maybe that's more severe. Now, my chumra, it's not only that they serve Avodah Zarah, but Shekei memoina novad, because we see that we burn all of their possessions. But nevertheless, the Gemara says, Nemar, it says, Nemar avia beskila, v'nemar avia besreifa. It says avia beskila. The lashon of the pasuk, it says by naira meirasa, that Yetziris and naira pesach beis avia, by the naira meirasa. This is not when she's fully married, when she's only after the first stage of marriage. Over there it says that she gets skila, and v'nemar avia b'sreifa. And then it says also the din of sreifa regarding the bas kayin is avia imechaleles beish tisaref. Ma avia ha'amura b'skila. Just like over there when it says by skila, that skila chamura misayif. So we already learned out and we proved before that skila is more severe than sayif. Af avia ha'amura misreifa. So to the expression of avia, avia mechaleles beish tisaref, that it says regarding sreifa chamura misayif. Sreifa is also more severe from sayif. So here we see that the fact that sreifa is more severe than sayif is only because of the comparison to skila. Otherwise, there would have been maybe a svara that sayif is more severe, because by iranidachas you get the misa with sayif. Now the Gemara goes on to the next one. Sreifa is more severe than chenek. Sreifa chamura michenek. How do I know this? Shekei nitno lebas kayin shezinsa. Because when the Torah wants to be machmer by the bas kayin, it takes it out from chenek and you get sreifa. Now, my chumre, what's the chumre of this? Kedamaran, as we said before, that the chumre is that she's being machal her father. Right, and over here, the case that we're talking about, okay, this is benegate to the bas kayin that's a full eishes ish. Yeah, so we take it out from this chiv misa of chanek to the misa of sreifa because she's machal her father. But adarabbe, on the contrary, chenek chamor, chenek is more chamor shekeinite and lemaka ave ve'imay. By chenek, I find that if a person hits a father and mother, so over there you get chenek, and that should be more chomer. Umay chomer, what's the chomer if a person hits a father or a mother? Shekein hukash kvoidon lekavod amakim, because their covet is like the Eibishter's covet, and there the misa is chenek, so that should be more severe than sreifa. But says the Gemara, from this did I see that the Torah wants to be more machmer with the bas kayin. And the regular bas Yisrael, when she's mezana as an Eishes is, she gets chenek. And when the Torah wants to be more machmer with the bas kayin, you elevate to sreifa. Shma mina sreifa chamura. So this itself tells me that sreifa must be more chamer b'negei to the bas kayin. Okay, so this is here, the Gemara is talking about the bas kayin even after she's fully married. And what's the chumrah of the aveda of the bas kayin? The fact that the via michalelis, that it affects the kedusha of the father. I forgot to mention before when the Gemara brought up that Rashi here explains that by the bas kayin, when she's not fully married yet, she's only after the first stage of marriage, and she's still living in her father's house. Over here, the chumrah of her aveda is actually even worse. And Rashi explains the reason is because then it's not only that she's mechal her father. It's more that what she's doing embarrasses her father. She's still living in her father's house. It's not like she's married and she's living far away. She's living in a different place. She's still living with her father, and she's poigim in the covet of her father, the covet of the family, and there's a whole big embarrassment of this. So it's ra'ala shamayim, it's ra'ala brius. It's a very terrible aveda. Over there, it's even worse. And over there, according to the Chachamim, which say that skila is the worst, the bas kayin will get skila, not sreifa, because skila is on the highest level. Okay, going on now, the Gemara says, where am I holding over here? Sayef? I'm holding by Sayef Chomer? Yeah, okay. Sayef Chomer Michenek. Going on to the next one, it said that Sayef is more severe than Chenek. How do we know this? Shekeiniten la'anshe iranidachas. Because the people of the iranidachas, their punishment is Sayef. Umay Chumre. What's the severity of Sayef? Of the case there by the iranidachas? Shekein b'maynan of, as we mentioned, because you burn all of their possessions. But Adarabe, I can argue and say Chenek Chomo, that Chenek is more Chomo, Shekein Nitna LaMaka Ave V'imai, because by Maka Ave V'imai, which is compared to My Chomer Shekein Hukash V'chula, as we said, that is compared to the covenant of the Eibishter, so that's more severe. And as I mentioned before, the kavanah of the Gemara is not necessarily that it's more severe. Taisva says that the Gemara is saying that it should be equal to Iranidachas that serve the Veda Zara. If someone is Maka Ave V'imai, it's the covenant of the Eibishter as well, so it's the same thing. Afila Achi, but nevertheless, the Gemara concludes here, Paishit Yadai Be'ikir Adif. That misvara, this is really the basis of the Chachamim. As I mentioned, Rashi says this all the way in the beginning of the Sugya. The basis of the Chachamim is misvara. That Paishit Yadai Be'ikir, one that is serving a Zara or a Megadef, which is going against the Eibishter himself, that's the most severe Avera, and there the punishment is Skila. From that we know that that's the most severe Misa. Okay, now the Gemara will go through the order of the Daled Misas according to Rab Shimon. He argued that Sreifa is before Skila and Chenek is before Herek, so by him the order is completely different. Rab Shimon says the Gemara Sreifa Chamura Miskila. So according to Rab Shimon, from where do I know that the punishment of Sreifa is more severe than Skila? Shekain, he actually starts off and he says that we see that Nitna lebas kayin shezinsa. By a bas kayin shezinsa, the Torah is very machmer with this kind of aveda. It's a very severe aveda, and it's Sreifa, it's not Skila. What's the severity of this aveda? She's doing an aveda that's also mechalal, the kedusha of her father as a kayin. Okay, so Sreifa is the most severe. Says the Gemara Barada Rabbe, on the contrary, I should say Skila Chamura. Skila is more severe. Since these two averes that are very severe, it's Skila. My Chumra, and what's their Chumra, as we said before, Shekem Paishid Yadei Be'ikir, because you're going against the Eibishter himself. But says the Gemara, Rab Shimon still holds that we're forced to say that by the Bas Kayim we see that this is an aveda that's actually even worse, and the punishment is Sreifa. Rab Shimon follows his opinion. The Amar, he says, and this is the main akkudah that he argues on the Chachamim, Achas Arusa v'Achas Nesua. When it comes by the Bas Kayin that the Torah was more machmeh with her, it applies whether she is not yet fully married or even after she is fully married. In both cases, Yatza l'Sreifa, that she is taken out of the Misa of a regular Bas Yisrael and she's gets Sreifa. Now, what does a regular Bas Yisrael get? By a Bas Yisrael that's fully married and she was Mizana as an Eishes, she gets Chenek. By the Bas Yisrael that's an Arusa, what does she get? Skila. And in both cases, the Bas Kain is more severe and we get Sreifa. So we see that Sreifa is more severe than Chenek, and we see that Sreifa is even more severe than Skila. So the Gemara here finishes off this point. From the fact that the Torah is taking out the Arusa Bas Kain to be more machmer from the Arusa Bas Yisrael, miskila l'sreifa, even from skila by the Bas Yisrael, and taken to the level of sreifa, that means that the sreifa is more severe. Shema mina sreifa chamura. So this is the source of Rab Shimon. Now, at this point, the Rabbanan disagree with. The Rabbanan say that by a Bas Kohen, when she's an Arusa and she's Mizana, she gets Skila, just like the regular Bas Yisrael. The difference of the Bas Kohen and the Bas Yisrael is only by the Nesua, when she's fully married. This is basically the source of the Machlekes. Okay, but now this is also regarding the rest of the order. The Gemara goes through, where we see, according to Rab Shimon, the order the way he says it. Now, Sreifa chamura mechenek. How do we know that Sreifa is more severe than chenek? So it's similar to what the Gemara brought before. Shekei nitna lebas koyin shezinsa. Since by a bas koyin we take out from chenek, and instead we give Sreifa more severe. So the umay chumre. What's the chumra of the bas koyin? Kedamaran, as we explained, she's machal her father. But Adarab, I'll bring you a raya that chenek should be more severe. Chenek chamer shekei nitna lemakave v'imai. Because by chenek, but one that hits a father or mother gets chenek. Or my chumra, what's the chumra of one that hits a father or mother? Sheken hukash kvedim lekaved amokaim. So that's a very terrible thing, and there it's only chenek. Says the Gemara, but nevertheless, I clearly see here that Sreifa is more chamer than chenek, because with the afker achmanul and nesua bas koyin meklal nesua bas Yisrael. If the Torah is taking the bas koyin out of the punishment of misa from the bas Yisrael, me chenek l'sreifa, specifically from chenek, elevating to Sreifa, a higher punishment. Shema mina Sreifa chamura. That shows that Sreifa in relation to chenek is more severe. Now the next point, according to Rab Shimon, Sreifa chamura is Sayif. Sreifa, which is the most severe, is more chamor than Sayif. How do I know this? So according to Rab Shimon, Sayif, which the Mishnah calls hereg, it's the same thing. Sayif is the lowest, and Sreifa is more chamor than Sayif. How do I know that Shekei nitna lebas koyin shezinsa? Since Sreifa is the highest by the level of by the aveda of bas koyin shezinsa. My chumre, what's the severity here? Kedamaran, as we explained before. But Adarab, on the contrary, I'll tell you, Sayif Chomor. By Sayif, it's more Chomor Shekei Niten la'anshe Irani Dachas. I see that Sayif is the punishment for the people of the Irani Dachas. So my chumre, and what's the severity of the people of the Irani Dachas? Shekei Memoinan Avad. As we see, the Torah is very machman, and we burn all of their possessions. The Gemara here does not mention the very fact that the Anshe Irani Dachas are serving Avodah Zarah. So the Mefarshim say, because you see here an interesting thing according to Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon holds that the Bas Koyin, that is Mizana, and she's desecrating her father's name, is more severe of an Aveda than even being Kaifer Be'ikr. That's what the Gemara says. That's what comes out according to Rab Shimon, whatever the explanation is. So if so, over here, when we're asking from Irani Dachas and we're trying to prove that Irani Dachas is more severe, you can't say because Irani Dachas, they serve the Avodah Zarah. Rab Shimon holds that a girl being Mizana and desecrating her father's name is more severe than that. So therefore the Gemara says that the severity of Irani Dachas is that we see that you have to burn all their possessions. But nevertheless, Omrit, you'll say, the svara that we already mentioned before, what's more severe? Koyach hamidiach or koyach hanidach? The one that is madiach, meaning the one that persuades others to serve Avodah Zarah, or the one that got persuaded, the one that's serving Avodah Zarah? Koyach hamidiach, the one that is persuading the others to serve Avodah Zarah. And Rashi here brings that actually Rab Shimon argues with what was mentioned before. Before we mentioned that a madiach, according to the Rabbanon, this is another point that Rab Shimon argues in the Rabbanon. According to the Rabbanon, what misa does a madiach get? Skila. But according to Rab Shimon, the madiach gets actually sreifa. Since Rab Shimon holds sreifa is the most severe, he holds that he learns out actually that he gets sreifa. So since the madiach gets sreifa, so we see that that's the most severe punishment. Now the Gemara goes on to say the kal v'chomer, and now we have a kal v'chomer. Ma chenek shechomor misayif sreifa chamura mimeno. If chenek, according to Rab Shimon, which is more severe than Sayif, but Sreifa is more severe than it, as we saw before, that by the Bas Koyin we take it out from Chenek and we put it on Sreifa. So Sayif, Hakal, so if so Sayif, which is much lighter, like Kol Shekain, definitely Sreifa is more severe than Sayif. That's the source according to Rab Shimon. Okay, so now the Gemara goes on. Now, skila, this is all according to Rab Shimon. Sreifa is on the top, Sreifa is the most severe. Now the Gemara goes to the next level, skila. So skila is more severe than the other three. Skila chamura michenek, according to Rab Shimon, skila being more severe than chenek. How do I know this? Shekenitna lemegadef lo eved avedis gechavim. Since skila is the punishment for the megadef and eved avedis gechavim. Now my chumre, what's their severity? Kedamaran, as we said, because they're kaifer be'eker. But Adarab, I can argue and tell you, chenek chomer, chenek is more severe. Shekenitna lemakav v'imoi. When one hits a father or a mother, or my chumre, sheken hukash kvoidon lekavod amokim. So therefore, that should be more severe, or at least the same severe as serving Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara answers, but with the afker achmana la arusa bas Yisrael, the klal nesua bas Yisrael. According to Rab Shimon, by the arusa bas Yisrael, The Gemara says, this is actually according to everybody, this point that the Gemara says, and everybody agrees to this, that the Arusa Bas Yisrael is different than the Nesua Bas Yisrael. What's the difference? That Mechenek L'skila. A Eishes Ish, after she's fully married and she's Mizana, her punishment is only Chenek. By the Bas Yisrael, if she's a Naira Ma'irasa and she's still in her father's home and she's Mizana, her punishment is Skila. So Shema Minah, Skila Chamura. We see that the Torah wants to elevate the level of the severity of the Misa for a more severe Aveda, that you elevated from Chenek to Skila. So from here I see that Skila is more severe than Chenek. Now Skila, the last point regarding Skila Chamura Misayif. How do I know that Skila is more severe than Sayif? Because I see, as we said before, that Skila is given to the Megadif, and that Megadif is the most severe Aveda. But Adarabe, I can argue in this and say, Sayif Chomer, that Sayif is more severe. The people of Dir Anidachas only get Sayif. Now, my Chomre Shekem Meinen Avad. The Chomre is that we destroy and burn all their money. So this the answer is, but Amrit you'll say, V'chi Eze Koyach Merubeh. What is more severe? Koyach HaMediach, the one that's persuading others, or Koyach HaNidach, or the ones that were persuaded, that served Avodah Zarah? Aviyayim Koyach HaMediach, the one that was Mediach, the others to serve Avodah Zarah. Now, Kal V'chaymer, and therefore I say, Kal V'chaymer, U'ma Chenek, Shechomer Misayif. If Chenek, according to Rab Shimon, which is more severe than Sayif, Skila Chamura Mimena, we proved already before that Skila is more severe than it. Sayif Akal Lekol Shekain. So the Sayif, which is lighter than Chenek, definitely Skila will be more severe than Sayif. Now, the last point here, according to Rab Shimon, the Gemara explains Chenek Chomor Misayif. Chenek is more severe than Sayif. How do I know this? So this is also the point that Rabbanan disagreed with this. The Rabbanan held that Sayif is more chomer than Chenek. What's Rab Shimon's source to say that Chenek is more severe than Sayif? Because I see that when one hits a father or a mother, what's the punishment? Chenek. Now, my chumre kedamar, and the chumre is as we said, because the father's kavod is compared to the Eibishter. Adarabe, but I'll argue with you and say, Sayif chomesh shekenitn lan shir anidachas. It's given to the shir anidachas. So my chumre, and what's their chumre? Sheken memoinan avad, because all their money is destroyed. So Amrit, you'll say, v'chi eze koyach merubah. What koyach is stronger, koyach hamidiach or koyach hanidach? Havayim koyach hamidiach. The koyach of the mediach is stronger. V'tanya, and we learned regarding the mediach, madiche ir anidachas beskile. But Rab Shimon says bechenek, that the madiach of the Ir Anidachas gets the punishment of chenek. Ooh, this is I have to correct this. This is the point that I got wrong here in the beginning of here in the Gemara before. Rab Shimon holds that the punishment of the Ir Anidachas is chenek. I mentioned before that Rab Shimon said sreife. I misspoke. I should have said chenek. The Rabbanon say that the madiach, the ones that persuade others to serve Avodah Zarah, their punishment is skila. Rashi brings this. The Gemara it says it later on Daf Pei Tes. Rashi brings it before on Amar Aleph that the madiach is beskila. Rab Shimon holds that the madiach gets chenek. Okay, so if the madiach gets chenek, that's a proof that chenek has to be more severe than sayif, because sayif is for the people that are serving Avodah Zarah. Chenek is for the people that are persuading to serve Avodah Zarah. They're mighty themselves and they're persuading. So Chenek is the one that's more chomer. That's the kavan of the Kal V'chayim that the Gemara said before. So therefore, this is another detail here that we see that Rab Shimon argues with the Rabbanan. So basically, to summarize, the 2 points that Rab Shimon argues with the Rabbanan really depends on 2 halachas that they actually argue. One is regarding the Bas Kayim when she's an Arusa. What misa does the Bas Kayin Arusa get? According to the Rabbanan, the Bas Kayin Arusa gets skila, so that's the top. Hashenkin, according to Rab Shimon, you get sreife, so it must be that sreife is more severe than skila, because the Bas Yisrael only gets skila. That's the machlokes between skila and sreife, which is more severe. And over here, regarding hereg and chenek, which one of these 2 are more severe? The source of their machlokes is regarding the madiach of Ir Anidachas, the one that persuades others to serve Avodah Zarah. Rabbanan say that you get skila, so that has to be the top. And according to the Rab Shimon, it's chenek. So it's not, chenek is not the most severe misa, but at least it's more severe than sayif, which is what the nidachim, the ones of the Ir Anidachas, get. That's the basis of the machlokes. Okay, let's continue the Gemara here. Now, based on this, the Gemara brings Margale B'Pumei de Rabbi Yechanan. It was accustomed in the mouth of Rabbi Yechanan to say. That's Rashi actually says a little bit different. Rashi says Sodor Hoya Dov Azeh B'Piv, that this he had this clearly by him. But others say it means that he used to say this. That this halacha related to what we're speaking about. Naira Meirasa Bas Kayin Shezin. So the Naira Meirasa, after the first stage of marriage, she's a Bas Kayin and she was Mizaneh, so she gets skila. Okay, that's what the Rabbanan say. Rab Shimon says b'sreifa. She only gets sreifa, or not only. Rab Shimon says sreifa is the most severe. Now, zin sameavia, if she was mizaneh from her father, so this is a bas kayin, that not only she was mizaneh, but she's also mizaneh from her father. Now, when you're mizaneh from her father, what's the punishment over there? The aveda of being mizaneh with a father is chenek. Okay, and if the fact that she was mizaneh is she could also get skila because she's a bas kayin that's being mizana and she should get skila. So zinsa me'avia b'skila. In this case, she will not get chenek, but she'll get skila. Rab Shimon says b'sreifa. Then in this case, she gets sreifa. Okay, just a second. One second. I'm just looking at the Rashi to make sure that I'm saying this over here correctly. Zinsa me'avia. So zinsa me'avia. Second. So when she was mizana from her father, the misa should be sreifa. So that's the machlokes of it. The point of here is that when she was mizana from her father, so anytime there's two misas, which misa do you give? The one that's most severe. So if she was mizana from her father, not like I said before I said that she was mizana from her father, the misa is chenek. No, if she's mizana from her father, the misa of the father should be sreifa. But now besides that, she's also a bas kayin. And therefore, bas kayin that's mizana should get skila. Which so over here in such a case, zinsa me'avia. This zinsa me'avia actually Rashi says is not talking about the bas kayin. Oh, that's what it is. It's talking about the bas Yisrael. The bas Yisrael was mizana when she's an Eishes and she was mizana from her father. She's a bas Yisrael that is a naira mo'arasa. She was mizana from her father. So now, which misa does she get? On one hand, because she's a bas Yisrael and she's a naira mo'arasa, she should get skila. On the other hand, because she was mizana from her father, so she should get sreifa. Which one is more severe? So that's what the Gemara is saying. According to the Chachamim, skila is more severe. So that's the one, the misa that you get. And Rab Shimon says sreifa is more severe, and that's where you get sreifa. Okay, now the Gemara will explain here this. What's this statement that Rabbi Yechanan said? My kamash malon. What's the chiddush in what he's saying? L'Rabbanan, according to the Rabbanan, I say nesua yatsa l'sreife v'loy arusa. The nesua, which means a bas Yisrael when she's fully married. So what does she get? She gets chenek. Now a bas kayin that is married and she's mizana. So yatsa, the Torah excludes her. She does not get chenek. Instead, what does she get? She gets sreifa. But v'loy arusa. Arusa is not different than a regular bas Yisrael. A bas Yisrael gets skila. By a bas kayin, you also get skila. As we mentioned before. Rab Shimon, however, according to Rab Shimon, achas arusa, v'achas nesua, both, whether she's arusa or she's a nesua, yatsa l'sreifa. There's a severity by the bas kayin that she gets sreifa, which is the most severe according to Rab Shimon, more than chenek and even more than skila that the bas Yisrael, which is an arusa, gets. Now, the time am I. What's the reason for this? Mishum to Rabbanon, skila chamura. According to the Rabbanon, skila is the most severe, and the Rab Shimon, sreifa chamura. Rab Shimon says that the sreifa is most severe. Now, nafkemin, what's the practical relevance for this is as follows. Lami shenis chayev shtei mises. A case where a person is chayev, it did an aveda where there are two mises involved. Mises bezin, that is, two mises of bezin involved in this. Nidim v'chamura, you get the more severe punishment. And that's the case that the second part of the statement that Rabbi Yechanan brought up, which is the bas Yisrael, that's an arusa that has a relation with her father. So there's a misa of sreifa for having a relation with the father, and there's a misa of skila. So according to Rabbanan, you get skila. According to Rab Shimon, you get sreifa. So you go by the more severe. Says the Gemara, my Rab Shimon. What's the source? Where do we see that Rab Shimon says this? The Tanya, we learned in the Braisa, Rab Shimon said, Shnei klalois nemru bebas kayin. There are two klalos, there are two general points that the Torah says regarding the bas kayin. Now, these two klalos that the Gemara is talking about, what is it talking about? It's talking about an Eishes Ish. One is the Eishes Ish when she's fully married, that she gets chenek, and the other is the Eishes Ish that's mizana when she's a naira me'arasa. When over there you get skila. So the Torah is saying that on both of these levels you get misa, whether a nesua or an arusa. Okay, now the Gemara corrects, and the Gemara says immediately, what are these? He's saying that these are shnei klalois only by a bas kayin, but bas kayin v'loy bebas Yisrael. Only a bas kayin that's mizana when she's an Eishes Ish, whether she's an nesua, whether she's an arusa. Only there the Torah says you get misa, not by the bas Yisrael. So Eimeh say af bebas kayin. The Torah is saying that an Eishes Ish that's mizana gets misa, And it's saying this benigay to a Bas Yisrael, which would include a Bas Kayin as well. Before the Torah clarified that we want to take the Bas Kayin out to be more severe, in the beginning the Torah says that the Bas Kayin is just like a Bas Yisrael that gets Misa, whether you're Mizana when you're fully Nesua or Mizana when you're a Narusa. And then v'hoitz yakos of Nesua Meklal Nesua v'arusa Meklal Arusa. Then the Torah says the Bas Kayin that's Mizana if she was fully married is different than the Bas Yisrael when she was fully married. And it also Arusa Miklal Arusa, that the Bas Kayin, her punishment is different than the Arusa, the Bas Yisrael. So Makish Ahoitzi Akasav Nesua Miklal Nesua Lahachmer, just like when the Torah is Maitzi, the Bas Kayin from Chenek, which is what the Bas Yisrael gets, and the Bas Kayin gets Sreifa, so the Sreifa is more severe than Chenek, so it's a Chumreh. Af kishahaitzi akasav arusa miklal arusa. So too, according to Rab Shimon, the Bas Kayin, which is an arusa, does not get the punishment of skila, which the Bas Yisrael gets. Lahachmer. This is a chumrah. So this is the source of Rab Shimon, as we already said before, that sreifa is the most severe punishment more than skila. Okay, that's what was relevant to what we learned before. Now the Braisa goes on to say, Zaymimei Nesua Bas Kayin, that when it comes to the Zaymimin of a Nesua Bas Kayin, B'chlal Zaymimin Nesua Bas Yisrael. Even though there's the special chumrah of a Bas Kayin that gets Sreifa, that's only a chumrah for the Bas Kayin. But if you have Edom Zaymimin that testified on this Bas Kayin that she gets Sreifa, and then they are saying false testimony, so usually Kashazamam, they get the same punishment that the Bas Kayin should have gotten, which is Sreifa. Here though, by the Zaymimim of the Nesua Bas Kayin, are B'chlal Zaymimin Nesua Bas Yisrael, they're only going to get Chenek. Because by the Bas Kayin it says, He Ba'esh Tisaref, Savia Mechaleles, Be'esh Tisarev, and over there the pasuk says later, He Be'esh Tisarev, he means only her. And V'loi Bayala, not the man that was Bayal her, and also V'loi Zaymimeh, the Zaymimeh don't get the Sreifa. And the Zaymimeh Arusa Bas Kayin is B'chlal Zaymimeh Arusa Bas Yisrael. According to Rab Shimon, it says that the Bas Kayin gets Sreifa, not Skila, but the Zaymimeh of the Arusa, the Bas Kayin, does not get Sreifa, only gets skila like a Bas Yisrael, because this is a unique chumrah for the Bas Kayin, which does not apply not to the Bayal and not to the Zaymimin either. Okay, that's the conclusion of this Braisa. Okay, the Gemara here starts a new inyan, and we'll see Mitzvah Shem.